The 3%ers are a decentralized movement in the US and Canada. The name comes from the claim that only 3% of American colonists fought the British during the American Revolution. The group was formed in 2008 by Michael Bryan Vanderbilt in reaction to the election of Barack Obama, which members believed would lead to greater government control and stricter gun laws. They focus on resistance to federal authority, individual freedom over political parties, and believe that a small determined group can resist tyranny. The group presents itself as patriotic and focused on protecting families. They reject racism and extremism and say they have members of many different races, though its decentralized nature has produced factions with different views. Critics label it a dangerous paramilitary anti-government movement. Some members come from law enforcement and the military. The group has a hierarchical structure with oaths similar to those of the US Armed Forces. Active duty members are asked to disobey government orders they consider unconstitutional, including civilian disarmament, martial law enforcement, warrantless searches, or detention without due process. Training and preparedness are central, including tactical drills, patrols, live fire exercises, and disaster or community emergency response. Some members participated in the January 6th Capitol attack and were charged with conspiracy. In recent years, parts of the movement have increasingly targeted immigrants, Muslims, and left-wing groups like Antifa. Despite lacking centralized leadership, Canada has designated them as a terrorist organization. The Proud Boys are a US-based activist group founded in 2016 by Canadian Gavin McInnes, beginning as a loose social club focused on making better men. They describe themselves as Western chauvinists, arguing that Western Christian societies are superior. Membership numbers are unclear, but chapters have existed in countries like the UK, Germany, Canada, Australia, and Japan. They believe Western culture and traditional masculinity are under threat and oppose left-wing movements, feminism, communism, illegal immigration, and LGBT activism, while supporting traditional family structures and zero tolerance for sex offenders. They've been active at pro-Trump and MAGA events and are known for violent confrontations with left-wing protesters. In 2017, members formed the paramilitary Fraternal Order of Alt Knights to confront anti-fascist groups. That year, figures like Kyle Chapman and Jason Kessler appeared at the Unite the Right rally, though McInnes later said they were expelled over racial views. The group has since been connected to assaults, street violence, church vandalism in 2020, and participation in the January 6th Capitol attack, leading to conspiracy charges. The Proud Boys deny being racist or white supremacist and say membership is ideological, with internal rules against unprovoked violence and excluding members with histories of serious violence. In 2018, the US government labeled them extremist, prompting McInnes to step down. Leadership passed to Enrique Tarrio, who was sentenced over January 6th, then pardoned by Trump in 2025. After January 6th, internal conflict and surveillance fractured the movement, leaving mostly independent local chapters with varying views. Canada and New Zealand designated the group a terrorist organization. The Reichsbürger movement is a collection of anti-constitutional, revisionist groups in Germany and Austria that reject the legitimacy of the modern German state. Adherents claim the German Reich still exists within its 1871 or 1932 borders, and argue that today's Germany is a non-sovereign corporate entity imposed by the Allies after World War II and controlled by the United States, citing the lack of a formal peace treaty as proof. They reject federal laws, courts, taxes, and police authority. Around 21,000 members are mainly spread across Germany, but concentrate in Bavaria, Brandenburg, and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. Members include former police officers, lawyers, soldiers, and special forces. Raids have repeatedly uncovered large weapons and ammunition stockpiles intended for militias preparing an uprising. In 2016, member Adrian Ursache shot and wounded 2 police officers during an eviction after declaring his property part of a self-proclaimed state. In 2022, members of the splinter group Vereinte Patrioten were arrested for plotting infrastructure sabotage, civil unrest, and the kidnapping of the German health minister. Later that year, authorities arrested 25 members accused of planning a coup, including Prince Heinrich Reuss, named as future emperor. In 2025, Germany banned the largest subgroup, Königreich Deutschland, led by self-proclaimed King Peter Fitzek. But the movement persists. The Oath Keepers are an American militia movement founded by lawyer and former US Army paratrooper Stuart Rhodes. They encourage members to disobey government orders they believe violate the Constitution and are often labeled anti-government. The FBI classifies them as a loose paramilitary organization that believes the government has been overtaken by a hidden conspiracy trying to strip citizens of their rights. Public membership figures suggest around 5,000, around 2/3 being former military or law enforcement. The group rejects racism and white supremacist ideology. Its bylaws exclude members linked to hate groups, and Rhodes, who is part Mexican, has repeatedly disavowed racism. The group gained national attention during the 2014 Bundy Ranch standoff and the 2016 occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. During unrest following the George Floyd protests, Rhodes described violence in Portland and Kenosha as start of a civil war, labeled Antifa and Black Lives Matter a communist insurrection, and urged President Trump to deploy the National Guard. Members participated in the January 6th Capitol attack, leading to 20 indictments. Rhodes received an 18-year sentence for seditious conspiracy, and leader Kelly Meggs was sentenced to 12 years. Both were released in 2025. The Russian Imperial Movement is a militant organization founded in St. Petersburg in 2002. It's composed of Christian ultranationalists seeking to restore the Russian Empire dissolved in 1917, promoting monarchy, Orthodox Christianity, and an all-Russian nation, while denying Ukraine's legitimacy as a state. In 2008, it formed the Imperial Legion paramilitary wing, which has deployed fighters to Ukraine, Syria, Libya, and the Central African Republic. Since 2014, the group has recruited and trained Russian and foreign far-right extremists to fight alongside separatist forces in Ukraine, and has provided paramilitary training to neo-Nazi and far-right groups in Europe and North America. Training camps in St. Petersburg teach urban combat, shooting, tactical medicine, survival, military psychology, and high-altitude operations. The group also operates in Estonia and has links to a Russian Atomwaffen cell. The group says it fights against a global Zionist cabal that wants to undermine Russia and restructure the world's governments. They also deny the Holocaust and claim Jews seek to bring about the Antichrist. Despite some publications being banned, it operates openly in Russia and is widely believed to have ties to Russian intelligence. The US, Canada, and the UK have designated it a terrorist organization. The Boogaloo Movement is a loosely organized US militia centered on pro-gun and anti-government beliefs. Adherents discuss preparing for or accelerating a second American Civil War or revolution, which they call the Boogaloo. The movement includes factions linked to white supremacist or neo-Nazi ideology. Others reject racism entirely. It has been described as alt-right, anarchist, or libertarian. Some say it just draws violent extremists. Many embrace accelerationism, aiming to trigger societal collapse and civil conflict. Members often appear at protests wearing Hawaiian shirts, igloo patches, military-style clothing, and assault rifles. Some glorify past anti-government violence, such as the Oklahoma City bombing and Ruby Ridge, framing them as resistance to state oppression. Alleged members have been charged with crimes, including involvement in January 6th, murders of law enforcement and security personnel, kidnapping plots, and terrorism offenses. A prominent case involved alleged member Stephen Carrillo, who killed a federal officer in Oakland and later ambushed California police, killing a sheriff's sergeant with gunfire and explosives. While some adherents condemn violence, US authorities classify the movement as a violent extremist threat. The Base is an international neo-Nazi organization and paramilitary network founded in 2018 by former alleged FBI agent Ronaldo Nazzaro. It operates in the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, and South Africa, with links to Atomwaffen Division. The group advocates the violent collapse of society and overthrow of governments to create a white ethno-state. While Nazzaro frames it as a survivalist and self-defense network, the Base promotes accelerationism, race war, and leaderless resistance. Organized into decentralized cells, it recruits through strict vetting and trains members in survival, weapons, and paramilitary tactics for armed resistance. Members have been linked to synagogue vandalism, plots to derail trains and poison water in Virginia in 2020, mass murder discussions to trigger a race war, and assassination threats against foreign leaders like Dutch PM Mark Rutte. In 2025, the group allegedly offered money for infrastructure sabotage and Ukrainian assassinations. Its Ukrainian branch, White Phoenix, claimed to have killed a Ukrainian security colonel. The base is designated a terrorist organization by multiple countries. The John Brown Gun Club is an American far-left armed militia with origins in Kansas and links to the broader Antifa movement. While the original club dissolved, successor chapters in Washington, Texas, and several other states persist. These operate without central leadership or hierarchy and don't disclose membership numbers or identities. The group defines itself as an anti-fascist, anti-racist, pro-worker community defense organization. It supports gun ownership for self-defense against perceived state overreach, promotes racial equality and social justice, and calls for the abolition of police and institutions like ICE, maintaining a hostile stance toward law enforcement. Members often appear armed at pride events, drag shows, and protests, claiming to provide security against far-right violence, though critics accuse the group of contributing to riots and violence. In 2019, member Willem Van Spronsen attacked an ICE detention facility in Tacoma using incendiary devices and was killed by police. At least 2 members have also been charged with attempted murder of federal officers in the 2025 Alvarado ICE facility shooting incident. Vanguard America was a white supremacist organization that promoted the Nazi blood and soil concept, linking a racially defined nation to the United States. In 2016, Marine Corps veteran Dylan Irizarry identified himself as the leader, claiming around 200 members, many military veterans, across 20 states. He later changed his name to Dylan Hopper. In 2017, the group formed a women's division but soon fractured. That June, at its Texas is Ours rally in Austin, chapter leader Thomas Rousseau positioned himself as the group's true leader. Vanguard America marched at the 2017 Unite the Right rally under Rousseau's leadership. James Alex Fields, later responsible for a fatal vehicle attack, was seen marching with the group, carrying its shield, though Vanguard America denied his membership. After Charlottesville, the group collapsed. Rousseau's faction became Patriot Front, while others formed the National Socialist Legion. Patriot Front is an American white nationalist and neo-fascist group linked to the alt-right. Led by Thomas Ryan Rousseau, the group is white only for Americans of European descent, arguing that national identity is inherited by blood rather than citizenship. They claim not to hate or seek harm toward other races, but want to preserve what they see as a distinct European American culture. Patriot Front promotes authoritarian government, closed borders, a white ethno-state, and rejects democracy as failed. It frames the United States as a pan-European nation, inherited from white ancestors, calls for a hard reset, and acknowledges indigenous tribal nations as distinct, while asserting only Europeans belong to the American nation. Patriot Front is highly centralized and divided into 8 regional networks, reporting to national leadership. Recruitment is done online, and the group avoids discussing guns or violence in public. Members are encouraged to train in martial arts and often conduct paramilitary-style drills. The group is best known for coordinated propaganda campaigns, such as banner drops, flash marches, and demonstrations. Members have been arrested for vandalism, intimidation, assault, disrupting several anti-ICE protests, and in 2022 for allegedly planning a riot at an Idaho Pride event. National Action was a British militant neo-Nazi group active between 2013 and 17. Founded by Benjamin Raymond and Alex Davis, it became the first far-right group banned in the UK since World War II. The group described itself as a revolutionary nationalist movement and was described as racist, anti-Semitic, and homophobic. National Action operated in secrecy, enforcing strict rules to stop members from speaking about the group. Leadership structures were unclear, and even after the ban, members continued meeting in secret. It adopted a paramilitary mindset and structure, centered on violent, race-based confrontation. Its ideology drew from Adolf Hitler, Anders Breivik, the Spanish Falange, and Oswald Mosley's British fascists, promoting white jihad and a race war narrative blaming racial diversity for social conflict. Members engaged in combat training and were linked to weapons possession, explosives, and detailed attack planning. The group celebrated the murder of Member of Parliament Helen Joanne Cox and was connected to murder plots targeting politicians and police, with several members convicted of attempted murder or racial hatred offenses. After the ban, they regrouped under names such as NS-131, Scottish Dawn, Active Club England, and the System Resistance Network. The Mexican Autodefensas are armed civilian vigilante groups that emerged in 2012 in South Mexico and the Gulf region, most notably in the state of Michoacán. They arose in response to widespread violence from the Knights Templar cartel and are a militia movement acting outside the state. At its height, thousands who said the government had failed to protect them were involved. Cartels were extorting farmers and merchants through fees, with kidnappings or killings used as punishment for non-payment. The government responded by deploying over 9,000 soldiers and federal police, but many communities didn't trust them and continued backing the Autodefensas. Over time, the movement fractured. Some groups integrated into state security forces, while others became infiltrated by cartels, but some are still active today. The Nordic resistance movement is a neo-Nazi organization based in Sweden, with branches in Norway, Denmark, Iceland, and formerly Finland until its 2019 ban. It seeks to abolish democracy and create a unified Nordic republic made up of Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Finland, and the Baltic states. The group calls for an end to mass immigration, remigration of those not of Northern European descent, national self-sufficiency, and withdrawal from the EU. It has also praised Adolf Hitler and Romanian fascist Corneliu Codreanu. NRM operates with a paramilitary structure, conducting combat training, knife fighting, and tactical drills. Authorities have uncovered weapons caches, illegal firearms, explosives, and links to training camps associated with the Russian Imperial movement. In 2013, armed members attacked an anti-racist demonstration in Stockholm. Members have since been connected to bombings of refugee camps, assaults on journalists and political opponents, assassination plots, and repeated violent clashes with anti-fascist groups. In July 2025, Swedish police arresting a member over violent threats were met with gunfire. The United States designated NRM a terrorist organization in 2024, though it remains active. Génération Identitaire originated in France in the 2000s. Its ideology is rooted in opposition to globalization, liberalism, multiculturalism, Islam, and extra-European immigration. It promotes pan-European nationalism, cultural homogeneity, and the preservation of cultural identity. The movement claims that white Europeans face demographic and cultural extinction due to immigration, low birth rates, and pro-diversity policies. The group became known for paramilitary-style training camps, coordinated uniformed demonstrations, drone surveillance, and so-called Defend Europe border operations in the Alps and along the French-Spanish border, where members staged blockades and patrols to deter migrants. Authorities accused the group of inciting hostility toward Muslims and foreigners. In 2021, the French government banned the group, citing hate speech and its militia-like behavior. But the broader identitarian movement lives on across many European countries, plus networks in North America and Oceania. The Active Club Network is a decentralized collection of white nationalist and neo-Nazi cells operating across the US, Europe, Canada, Australia, and Russia. It emerged in January 2021, inspired by the defunct Rise Above movement, and presents itself as MMA clubs promoting a warrior mindset in preparation for a future race war. Active clubs frame their mission as defending the white race against great replacement and white genocide narratives, and aim to build an autonomous form of white nationalism designed to evade monitoring. The network has been described as a potential standby army for coordinated violence and is believed to emphasize paramilitary-style training. In several countries, active clubs are believed to provide a haven for members of banned extremist groups like National Action in the UK. The network has alleged ties to the terrorist group Atomwaffen Division and is seen as a replacement of it. In Finland, an active club chapter has been linked to training Karelian separatists, labeled terrorists by Russian security officials. The network has expanded rapidly to nearly 200 chapters across 27 countries, with the English branch involved in organizing the 2024 anti-immigration riots. The Not Effing Around Coalition is America's largest armed black nationalist militia. It was founded in 2017 by former soldier John Fitzgerald Johnson, who positions the group as separate from both the Black Panther Party and Black Lives Matter, and says its membership largely consists of former military shooters. NFAC promotes black liberation and separatism. Johnson said that the US should either give Texas to African Americans as an independent state or allow them to leave the country to form a new nation elsewhere. The group's long-term goal is a black ethno-state rooted in ancient Egyptian religion, and Johnson has said NFAC was formed to prevent another Greensboro massacre. The group claims its purpose is to protect black people from attacks. Members need to have concealed carry permits and firearms proficiency. The group is best known for heavily armed appearances at protests, providing security for black demonstrators and calling for the removal of Confederate monuments. In December 2020, Johnson was arrested for aiming a rifle at police during protests over Breonna Taylor's killing and was later sentenced to 7 years in prison. Arambai Tenggol is a Tibeto-Burman activist group in India's Manipur state that has evolved into a radicalized armed militia. It seeks to revive the pre-Hindu Sanamahi religion among the Meitei community. Founded as a cultural organization in 2020, it became an armed force by 2023 during large-scale ethnic violence between the Meitei majority of the Imperial Valley and the Kuki-Zo tribes in surrounding hills. The group has been accused of mass killings and arson, and has also clashed with the Assam Rifles paramilitary force. Arambai Tenggol is alleged to enjoy political protection and to be used to advance certain agendas. By 2025, it was estimated to have around 60,000 members, a significant weapons stockpile and effective control of the Imperial Valley. Members reportedly intimidate legislators, issuing demands through force. Despite crackdowns and partial arms surrenders, the group remains active. The Lightfoot Militia is a decentralized network of units organized into county-based battalions across several US states. These units are connected through a shared code of conduct to coordinate quickly across states during what they define as emergencies. The group is part of the broader US Patriot and anti-government militia movement. Lightfoot units often appear armed at protests, but don't support any political side and condemn violence. They say they protect First Amendment rights and act as neutral peacekeepers. The group doesn't support white supremacy and has non-white and non-Christian members who conduct regular training in firearms, reconnaissance and navigation. During the Unite the Right rally, the New York chapter was reported to have played an active role in breaking up fights, apparently more than the police.